Well, we're tracking a developing story out of Saudi Arabia where human rights organizations are concerned that the Islamic Kingdom could execute a female activist. Isra al-Gumgam is a 29-year-old activist who was arrested with her husband for participating in protests in 2011, calling for equality for the Shia Muslim minority. Well, those demonstrations were sparked by the Arab Spring. Now Saudi Arabia is seeking what many are calling an unprecedented death penalty against her. We want to note that we were unable to find any current and authentic pictures of al-Gumgam. I want to bring in Rachel Vogelstein. She's from Washington, D.C. She's a Douglas Dillon Senior Fellow and Director of the Women in Foreign Policy Program at the Council on Foreign Relations. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on this. I want to ask you, though, what exactly is Saudi Arabia accusing this woman of, and why are they considering the death penalty?
This woman is being accused of political activism for stirring up trouble because of her commitment to human rights for the Shia minority in the majority Sunni Saudi kingdom. This is a prosecution that was brought under a specialized criminal court that has been well known for being used to prosecute peaceful dissidents. And some human rights activists believe that by threatening the death penalty that the Saudi government is seeking to send a message.
So do you think that the Islamic Kingdom, do they have a history of executing women like this?
In fact, they do have a history of executing women, but largely for violent crimes. And this would be the very first time that a female activist is facing the death penalty for human rights activism. And that really sets a dangerous precedent to the female activists, many of whom remain behind bars for a variety of other reasons.
You know, this seems a little bit counter because you've got under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he has made a big effort to sort of modernize very quickly, allowing women into sporting events, allowing them to drive for the first time ever. So why are they allowing this story to get out there? You know, we see this kingdom struggling to balance ultra-conservative tradition and religion and trying to be progressive. So is this just a major setback for the kingdom?
You are absolutely right. The Crown Prince has taken steps to present himself as a reformer and, in fact, has made changes from rescinding the female driving ban this past June to opening movie theaters and a variety of other changes. But at the same time that these changes have taken place, these changes have been accompanied by a crackdown on many of the human rights activists who have made these changes possible. And so that really undermines the reform that the Crown Prince is pursuing.
So what is it about the Crown Prince? Is this just a veneer allowing women to drive, or is there real tangible progress in Saudi Arabia? Because you hear stories like this about a woman who could be executed for just political activism. How can you be progressive or even leading any sort of change if someone's going to be killed over just rallying in the streets?
You know, many experts believe that these changes are really driven by the economic realities that in an economy that is shifting from a largely oil-based economy to a more modern economy, that one cannot really afford to leave the economic potential of 50% of the population off the table. But that doesn't mean that there's been a liberalization with respect to women's human rights overall.
As you know, Rachel, Saudi Arabia is a Sunni Muslim majority. The fact that this activist and her husband are both activists who are part of the Shia community, how significant is that divide in Saudi Arabia?
It's significant. I mean, this is not the first time in which Shia activists will be convicted under terrorism-related charges for their demonstration and protest of the discrimination that the Shia community faces. But I think what's particularly significant here is by taking the unprecedented step of imposing the death penalty on a female activist, that really sends a chilling effect to all the women fighting for human rights in the kingdom.
Human Rights Watch says that in addition to al-Gumgam, there are actually 4 other activists facing a possible death sentence. October 28th is their court appearance, just a little more than a month away at this point. What can the international community do, if anything, at this point?
Well, that October 28th court appearance will be one in which the judge decides whether to uphold this death sentence or overturn it. If it is upheld, it then goes to the king for ratification, and I would expect to see both human rights activists and other governments increase the pressure on the Saudi government during this time.
Rachel Vogelstein, so grateful you can join us on such an important issue.
Thanks for having me.